Hi, my name is Whitney Smith. I'm the founder and CEO here at the Smith Investigation Agency, and today I'm answering some questions that we've had sent in. We get a lot sent in, by the way, so be here, watch a lot of the videos that we have, because we certainly have a lot that people send in or they comment, and then we can answer them and hopefully provide you some of the answers that you're looking for. So here we go. What's the most extreme lengths someone went to hide their affair? We don't always hear about sort of the other side of a story, right? In terms of, what someone's potentially doing, right? When we provide a report to a client, we don't always hear about maybe the exposure of what happened and, what an individual tried to do. But we do get the odd time when a subject, does catch on to surveillance. So years ago, probably close to 15 years ago, I was on surveillance and an individual, this was a younger married couple, but a married couple nonetheless. A lady called us. They had just had a baby. She had like a 2-3 week old baby at home. And she said, I think my husband's having an affair. Can you go out and, see what's going on? So set up surveillance. And sure enough, he says that he was going out. I think he was saying he was going to play fantasy football or something like that with his friends. He ends up, going to the University of Toronto, picks up a young girl and, is taking her around town. They're kind of, running around, obviously probably chit-chatting and killing time, because a lot of people, when they're having an affair, they don't really know where to go, right? So, they're kind of killing around town, driving. They stop at a restaurant and, ultimately I get video of them going inside the restaurant and then get video, of them outside when they're sitting in their vehicle. While the restaurant starts to get later and later at night, there's less vehicles in the parking lot. And, at the time and years ago, and hindsight is 2020, right? You know things now that you would do differently, at different points. I was updating the client during that surveillance and saying, okay, yeah, he's at a restaurant, he is with someone, whatever. Where now we do not give live updates. It's just not safe ultimately for us as investigators, and potentially for that significant other, right? Because if that partner shows up and is obviously agitated and emotionally charged, anything can happen. So I'm on surveillance and, I'm updating the lady and I say, they're in the vehicle. He's now, they've put both the driver and the passenger seat down in a complete laid down position, and he's moved from the driver's seat and he's on top of her on the passenger seat. So I say to the client, listen, what do you want me to do? At the end of the day, like, I can obviously, obtain this video footage for you. From the advantage point that I had at that time, there wasn't really much option for me to get video, because the parking lot when we originally had gotten in there was empty. And if I moved my vehicle at that point, they would know, right? Because we're the only ones within that parking lot at that time. So, I'm kind of hemming and hawing on, what to do. So I say to the client, listen, there's a dumpster very close to his vehicle. If I, do my best to kind of hide behind that dumpster, I think I can get video footage of what I believe is taking place. I can get that footage. And she says, I want it. And, it depends, in a situation like that, she doesn't want that footage because she wants to see her husband having an affair. She doesn't want to see him, having sexual intercourse with somebody else. But for her, it was actually more of a situation where she knew that his family was going to be like, he would never have an affair. He loves you. He loves your family, and yada, yada, yada. So she knew that that wasn't going to be for court purposes. That was going to be for family purposes. So, ultimately I, get myself behind that dumpster and I'm obtaining footage of, this individual and, this young woman just doing their thing. So ultimately, they finish up what they're doing. I go back to my surveillance vehicle shortly after we all leave the area. So I'm following him back to what I'm assuming is him dropping off this young lady. So it's give or take a 15-20 minute drive. Somewhere along that route, obviously the wife texted him and said, I know what you're doing, yada, yada, yada. I've hired somebody. So this guy basically drops the woman off, pulls into a parking lot. So of course, I'm not aware yet that this interaction's taken place and that, she's contacted him and he knows of my presence, and he pulls in a parking lot and just breaks down crying. And, you're starting to put two and two together. Like, this is weird. What's going on here? And at the end of the day, I'm in a parking lot, and when it's late at night, there's not as many vehicles in the parking lot. And the guy gets out of his vehicle, obviously, as we had both pulled into that parking lot at that same time. And he just starts yelling, please, I'll pay you anything. Don't give footage. Don't give footage. And I just left the area. I didn't even stay in the area. There was no point at that point. Obviously, the footage that the client needed had already been obtained. And there's no reason for an investigator to get into any kind of potential altercation with a subject. So again, hindsight 2020, early into my career, this was a long time ago. you're potentially going to give updates to a client because you know that they want it and they're asking for it and you want to give that, but ultimately you also need to be safe while you're on surveillance. So at least for me, that was kind of a situation where someone's going to go to a length to try and potentially hide their affair. Again, traditionally speaking, when we're doing our job as investigators, nobody knows that we're there. So we're not going to hear a lot of those situations because we're good at what we do. We're discreet and we're effective. We're in and out of a situation. We obtain what we need to obtain and then we depart so that we're not lingering around, and doing things that, don't have the right techniques, which expose, who you are and what you're doing. So there you have it. There's a little bit of information on the inside scoop, so to speak, of, some investigations that we've done. If you're looking to hire a licensed and experienced private investigator, you can give us a call here at the Smith Investigation Agency.